It was a crisp winter evening in Moscow, the kind where the snow glistens like diamonds under the streetlights and the cold air nips at your cheeks with playful familiarity. I had decided to treat myself to a night out at my favorite local bar, a cozy little place with warm lighting and an eclectic mix of patrons. As I walked in, shaking the snow from my coat and stamping my boots, I scanned the room for a familiar face but found none. Instead, my eyes landed on a striking figure seated alone in the corner. He was impossible to miss, a tall, slim, muscular man with dark skin that contrasted beautifully against the dim light of the bar. He looked out of place, yet somehow completely at ease. I felt a sudden urge to talk to him, driven by an inexplicable curiosity. Maybe it was the way he seemed lost in thought. Perhaps it was the subtle hint of loneliness in his eyes. I took a deep breath, smoothing my dress over my curves, and made my way over to him. "Hi there," I said, smiling warmly. "Mind if I join you?" He looked up, startled at first. Then his expression softened into a smile that sent a flutter through my heart. "Not at all," he replied, his voice deep and smooth. "I'm Natalia," I introduced myself, extending a hand. "What's your name?" "Michael," he answered, taking my hand in his. His grip was firm yet gentle, and I could feel the warmth of his touch. "It's nice to meet you, Natalia." Spent the next hour talking about everything and nothing. Michael was a US military officer, stationed temporarily in Moscow. He told me about his travels, his experiences, and his love for adventure. I shared stories about my life here, my family, and my passion for cooking. Despite our different backgrounds, we found common ground in our love for good food, music, and a sense of humor. As the night wore on, the bar grew louder and more crowded. I leaned in closer to Michael, our faces just inches apart. "It's getting noisy here," I said, my voice barely audible over the din. "Would you like to come back to my place? It's just around the corner. We can continue our conversation there." He hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "I like that," he said, a twinkle of anticipation in his eyes. We bundled up and stepped out into the snowy night, walking side by side through the quiet streets. My apartment was cozy and warm, filled with the scent of freshly baked bread and the soft glow of fairy lights. I poured us each a glass of red wine, and we settled on the couch, our knees touching as we faced each other. "So, Michael," I said playfully, swirling my wine, "tell me more about yourself. What do you like to do when you're not traveling the world?" He chuckled, taking a sip of his wine. "I enjoy reading, working out, and cooking, though I have to admit I'm not as good at it as I'd like to be. Maybe I can teach you a few Russian recipes," I offered, giving him a teasing smile. "I make a mean borscht." "I'd love that," he said, his eyes sparkling with interest. "What about you, Natalia? What do you do when you're not charming strangers in bars?" I laughed, feeling a warmth spread through me that had nothing to do with the wine. "I work as a graphic designer, but my real passion is dancing. There's something about moving to the rhythm of the music that makes me feel alive. Maybe you can teach me some dance moves too," he said, leaning closer. "I'm always up for learning something new." We spent the next few hours talking, laughing, and sharing stories. There was a natural chemistry between us, a connection that felt both exciting and comforting. As the night wore on, our playful flirting turned into something deeper, a genuine appreciation for each other's company. Eventually, we found ourselves standing by the window, looking out at the snow-covered city. Michael wrapped an arm around my shoulders, pulling me close. "This has been a wonderful night, Natalia," he said softly. "I'm glad you came over to talk to me." "Me too," I replied, resting my head against his chest. "This feels right." We stood there in silence for a moment, savoring the peacefulness of the moment. I knew that whatever the future held, this night would always be special. A serendipitous meeting that brought two strangers together in the heart of Moscow.